I welcome you all at Swayam platform. We are discussing a course titled as Hindu Personal Law including Marriage and Succession. In this week we are discussing about the Hindu law of succession. Before starting today's lecture, I want to recall what we discussed in the last class. In the last class we discussed about the succession in a case of Hindu male dying intestate, is special reference to first class heirs. For the purpose of first class heirs, we are illustrated and discussed section 8, 9 and 10. Section 8 laid down a fundamental rule, firstly first class heirs, and section 9 laid down that all the first class heirs will take simultaneously, means all are coexist, no one can exclude others. And section 10 laid down the 4 rules about the portion and proportion of the property. Section 10 rule 1 talks about widow will take 1 share. If more than 1 widow, together they will get 1 share. Rule 2 talks about son, daughter and mother will take 1 share. Sons, daughters and mother. Mother in every case only one. Son, daughter may vary in numbers. And the third is branches of predeceased son and daughter will take 1 share. And how the property will be distributed among the branches of predeceased son and predeceased daughter is discussed in the rule number 4. So therefore, for the purpose of identifying the law relating to intestate succession in a case of male and the class 1 heirs, section 8, 9 and 10 are crucial, and the rule already discussed in the last lecture. Friends, now in this class I will focus on the Hindu male dying intestate. What are the rules of succession in a case of second class heirs as well as in a case of agnates and cognates. How we can determine the rules. Friends, in this context, before starting anything, I want to identify the learning objectives of the today's lecture. The learning objectives of today's lecture includes first, class second heirs and their classification, rule of succession in a case of class 2 heirs of males, rule of distribution of property among class 2 heirs, meaning of agnates and cognates and their categories and classes, and the last one is order of succession among agnates and cognates. So these are the learning objectives of today's class. In today's lecture, we will focus only on second class heirs of a Hindu male who dies intestate, and we also discuss about the agnates and cognates. Friends, now for the purpose of identifying the rule in a case of second class heir, I want to focus on the provisions, and for the purpose of second class heirs we have 3 provisions: section 8, section 9 and section 11. Section 8 talks about the heirs of Hindu male dying intestate, means it is very clear that so long as the first class heirs exist, second class will not acquire anything. But in the absence of first class heirs mentioned in the schedule, in absence of them, second class heir will inherit the property. Friends, section 9 also laid down the clear rule. Section 9 laid down the rule of priority. Friends, when I discuss with you the drafting style of the second class heir schedule, drafted in Roman numbers, first, second, third, fourth, 9, all the heirs are categorized in 9 categories. Therefore, in the context of the second class heir, first entry will prevail over the second entry, second will prevail over the third, third will prevail over the fourth, and so on. Means second class entry first, which includes father, so long as the father exists, no other second class heirs will inherit the property. So section 8, secondly, second class. Second class heirs become entitled to inherit the property only in the absence of first class heir. Where multiple second class heirs exist, then a person who is distributing the property will focus on the category of the heirs, because second class heir whose name mentioned in the first entry will prevail over the second, whose name mentioned in the second will prevail over the third. So therefore, we can deduce a law on the basis of section 8 and 9. Section 8 means after the first class, in absence of first class, second class is entitled, and within second class, entry first will prevail second, and second on third, as and so on. This is the point. Friends, now I want to discuss certain fundamental points about the second class heirs, and these are the reference points which provides information about the general idea of the second class heirs. The class second heirs are entitled to succeed only when there is no heir in the class 1 existence. Originally, there were a total 23 heirs in the class second, distributed across 9 entries. Out of 23 heirs, 4 are elevated to class 1 heirs by the amendment in 2005. So now only there are 19 heirs in second class, and they have the preference in order of their entries. Friends, one point is very clear and simple. Originally, Hindu Succession Act identified 23 independent heirs in second class, but after the amendment in 2005, 4 are now elevated in the first class heirs. Therefore, at present 19 heirs exist in second class. They are categorized in 9 broad category, and first category will prevail over second, second will prevail over third, and so on. Friends, the presence of even a single heirs in the class 1 excludes second class heirs, and class second heirs are not simultaneous heirs unlike those of the first class heirs. How we can explain this idea? Friends, all the heirs mentioned in class 1 coexist, simultaneous heirs, therefore no one can exclude others. But friends, heirs in the second class, those in one entry are simultaneous heirs. They coexist, but entry 1, so long as exist, entry 2 have no scope for inheritance. Friends, all the entry except the first and third, originally first, now 2005 Amendment Act, third, father, and in the entry third, sons, daughter, sons, are only one in the entries mentioned in the classes. The rule regarding to the distribution of property of intestate among these class second heirs is given in section 11. Friends, this is the flow chart of the second class heirs. What is the interesting point? How you can explain the statutory scheme, all the heirs are categorized in 9 categories, and very important point is they are in Roman numbers, and this suggests us the order of preference. Therefore, friends, so long as the first class heir father exists, then second class heir have no chance. Second class exists, third have no chance. Third exists, fourth have no chance. Order of preference also reflected with the drafting style, and within the entry they take simultaneously. For example, grandfather and grandmother will take simultaneously, no one can exclude other, but presence of father exclude grandfather. This is the idea. On the basis of the schedule and class 1 heirs, we can deduce certain conclusion. This is mentioned in section 9. Section 9, read with the drafting style of this class heirs. Friends, the rule is that so long as the father exists, none one can exist in the subsequent entries. Friends, now I want to discuss the detail about the different heirs. Friends, first is father. It is very interesting fact that under Hindu Succession Act, father is not recognized as a first class heirs. Means son, daughter, predeceased, son, daughter, widow, mother, widow of predeceased son of predeceased son is recognized as a first class heir, but father is not recognized as a first class heir. If you compare between the mother and father, mother is the first class heir. So long as mother exists, father cannot inherit a single penny from the property of son. Son, daughter exists, father cannot inherit. But why such thing happened? Friends, in Bharatiya tradition, the status of mother is accepted with respect, and mother is treated more dignified manner. Therefore, mother will prevail over the father. Because Yajnavalkya Smriti also stated that mother is superior than father, and therefore at present, so long as all the relatives of the first class heirs exist, father cannot inherit the property. Father includes natural father as well as adoptive father. Father is not entitled to take property from legitimate son, unlike mother. Father is not entitled to take property from illegitimate son, unlike mother, but he is entitled to inherit the property from children born out of a valid or voidable marriage. Entry first includes only fathers. Fathers are eligible in the absence of other. Now second entry. Second entry includes originally 4 different kind of heirs. Entry second, son, daughters now included in first class heirs. Therefore, in the entry second, at present only 3 heirs are there: son, daughter, son, brother and sister. Means now 3 are coexist. But if father exists, brother and sister cannot inherit the property of a deceased person. Brother or sister inherit simultaneously because they are in the entry second. Here the term brother and sister includes both full and half blood relative. However, full blood is always preferred to a half blood as per section 18 of Hindu Succession Act. Friends, uterine brothers and sisters are not entitled to inherit the property. However, when intestate and his brother or sister are illegitimate children of their mother, they are related to each other as a brother under this entry. Friends, now second class heir, third entry. 3 are now included in the class first heir by the amendment in 2005. Due to 2005 Amendment Act and Succession Act, last 3 are included in the first class heir. Therefore, only daughter, son's son exists in the entry third. Now entry 4. Entry 4 includes brother's son, sister's son, brother's daughter and sister daughters. They are in the entry 4th. 5th, father's fathers and father mothers, means grandfather and grandmother. Father's widow and brother's widow. Father's widow not means mother. Father's widow means any wife of the father. Friends, entry 7, father's brothers and father sisters. Entry 8, mother's fathers, mother's mothers. And entry 9, mother's brothers and mother's sisters. By this division, we are able to understand that at present, after the amendment in the year 2005, there are 19 relatives are there. They are classified in 9 categories, and every category which is prior than subsequent one will prevail over another. But rule is very simple and clear. So long as the first class heirs exist, second class will not take anything, and entry first will prevail over the entry second, second will prevail over the third, and as per the rule mentioned in the section 11. Friends, now I want to focus on the section 11, where we are talking about the distribution of property among the heirs of class second. The property of intestate shall be divided between the heirs is specified in any entry in the class second of the schedule, so that they share equally. If there are no heirs present in the class 1, property will be distributed among class second heirs. The rules under class second is different from that of class 1. As per section 11, and heirs in the initial entry will exclude the heirs in the later entry. Further, an heir under the same entry get equal amount of share within the property. So, section 11 is very simple. Therefore, friends, by this rule, we can conclude that second class heirs, section 8, section 9 and section 11. Section 8, so long as the first class heirs exist, second class cannot inherit. In absence of first class, second class will inherit. Section 9, they will take simultaneously. Those in first entry prevail over the second entry. Within entry, they are equal heirs. Within entry, they are equal heirs. For example, after the death of Mr. A, grandfather and grandmother are exist. For example, friends, after the death of A, 2 heirs exist, grandfather and grandmother. The property will be distributed 1 by half and 1 by half. They will take simultaneously. If father is also alive, then father will inherit all the property, and grandfather, grandmother will not take anything. Father exists in class second, entry first. This is the simple rule of the distribution of the property in a case of second class heirs. Now I want to focus on the succession in a case of agnates and cognates. Friends, agnates translated in Sanskrit and Hindi is Gotraj and cognates means Bandhuj. Friends, we can derive the rules on the basis of section 8. Section 8 is very clear. Thirdly, agnates and lastly, cognates. So long as the first class heirs exist, they cannot inherit the property. So long as second class heirs exist, they cannot inherit the property. But in the absence of first class and second class heirs, Gotraj, agnates may inherit the property, and in the absence of first class, second class agnates, cognates will inherit the property, friends. And therefore, section 8 is very crucial in order to decide the fundamental order of inheritance. The rule relating to agnates and cognates is given in section 12 and 13 of the Hindu Succession Act. Friends, but before understanding the law relating to distribution of property in a case of agnates and cognates, we are bound to explain the concept of agnates and cognates under Hindu law, because identification of a person as a agnates and cognates is fundamental for the application of section 12 read with section 13. The term agnates defined under section 3 subclass A of Hindu Succession Act, and as per the definition, agnates, person is said to be agnate of another if the two are related by blood or adoption wholly through the male. If two are related either by blood or by adoption wholly through the male. Now friends, what is the important points? Both are connected wholly through the male. Here there is no question of the gender or sex of two persons. Connecting sex is very crucial, whether they are connected through wholly male or they are not connected wholly through male. If they are connected wholly through male, they are agnates. This means a person who traces his relationship with the other person through male is known as agnate of that person. For example, agnates would be father's fathers, brother's son, son's sons, son's daughter's father. These are the example of agnates. Section 3 subclass C defines the cognates. Person is said to be cognate if another person is said to be cognate of another if the two are related by blood or adoption but not wholly through the males. This is while tracing the relationship of two persons, their intermediary female, if exists between them, they are called as cognates of each other. For example, father's sister son, cognates, because sister exists in between a person. Therefore, father sons known as the cognates. Friends, you may understand the idea of agnates and cognates by the help of this chart. If there is a question between the A and grandfather, both are agnates because they are connected through the father and father is male. Grandfather, if there is a question that grandfather mothers are agnates or cognates, grandfather mother is also agnates. Why? Because they are connected wholly through males. Father's mothers also agnates because they are connected wholly through male. Friends, this illustration we should focus on that mother father is not agnate. Why not agnate? Why not agnates? Why not, friends? Because connecting sex is female. Therefore, father, grandfather, great grandfather known as the agnates, but mother's fathers cannot be agnates. Now, cognates. If two are not wholly connected with male, then two are considered as cognates. For example, mother, father is cognate because connecting sex is female. Mother's father's fathers also cognates because connecting sex female. Mother's father is also cognates because connecting sex is cognates. Friends, now we understand the meaning of agnates and cognates. Two persons are agnates when they are wholly connected through male. For example, grandfather, grandmother, great grandfather, great grandmother are agnates. But when two or more persons are connected not wholly through male, they are cognates. For example, mother's fathers, mother's fathers, mother's father's fathers. Be careful about terminology. We will not focus on the sex of two persons in question. We will focus on the connecting sex which exists in between them. On that basis, we will decide whether they are agnate or they are cognate. Now, order of succession as per section 12, friends. The order of succession among the agnates or cognates, as the case may be, shall be determined in accordance with the rules of preference laid down hereunder. Rule 1. Of two heirs, the one who has fewer or no degree of descent is preferred. Where the number of degree of descent is the same or none, that heir is preferred who is fewer or no degree of descent. Rule 3. Where neither heir is entitled to be preferred to order, where neither heir is entitled to prefer to the other under the rule 1 or rule 2, they will take simultaneously. Section 12 may be simplified as descendant have priority to the ascendant and collateral, ascendant have priority to collateral, nearer relative in degree has priority to the remoter one, the relative of equal distance of degree inherit take simultaneously. Friends, ascendant, descendant and collateral. Ascendant means son, grandson, great grandson. Descendant means father, grandfather, great grandfather. Collateral means uncle, aunt. Every human being have a three different kind of relationship: descendant, ascendant and collateral. So descendant have priority over ascendant and collateral, ascendant have priority over collateral. The nearer relative in the degree has priority to the remoter one, and relative of equal distance will take simultaneously. Friends, just a passing reference, I want to quote you certain examples of agnates. Agnates and cognates who are descendant. Agnates, sons and daughter. Just I want to explain the idea. Descendant means son, grandson, great grandson. Descendant. Ascendant means father, grandfather, great grandfather. And collateral means father's brothers. Father, brother's son. Everyone have a three different kind of relationship: descendant, ascendant and collateral. And the rule is descendant have priority over the ascendant, means great grandson will prevail over the great grandfather, and ascendant have priority over the collateral. Friends, now I want to discuss some example. On that basis you are able to understand the idea. Agnates includes agnates, those are descendant, sons and daughter, cognates, daughter son daughter's daughter. Agnates are cognates who are ascendant. Example of ascendant: father, grandfather. Cognates, father, mother's father. And the third category is agnates are cognates who are collateral, related to the intestate by degree of both ascent and descent. For example, father's brother's son, agnates; mother's brother's son, cognates. They are collateral. Friends, now I want to explain the rule of inheritance in the context of agnates, and this rule is also as equal as the cognates, friends. If there is a competition between ascendant and descendant, then ascendant have a priority. If there is a competition between great grandson and great grandfather, great grandson will inherit the priority. Ascendant and descendant, and competition is between going on. Descendant have priority to the ascendant. This is the rule, friends. Between the ascendant, if there is a competition between the ascendant, then nearer ascendant would prefer to the remoter one. Great grandfather will take the property, great great grandfather will not take the property. Nearer will prevail over the remoter if competition exists between the ascendant. Now friends, rule 2, where the number of degree of ascendants is the same or none, that heir is preferred who have fewer or no degree of descendant. If there is a competition between the collateral, if they both competing heirs have the same degree of ascent but their degree of descent are different, the heir with less number of degree of descent will prefer to the other. This rule means nearer collateral will be preferred to the remoter one. For example, after the death of P, now the question emerges that whether property of P will be inherited by BB or AAA. BB is nearer collateral and AAA is remoter collateral. Therefore, when the competition exists between two collateral BB and AA, in this context, nearer will prevail. If there is a competition between the collateral, nearer collateral will prevail remoter. Friends, be careful. There is no competition between them and BB. The competition between agnates are cognates. They are collateral in nature. BB has fewer degree of descent, then he will receive the property. Friends, now the next illustration is if there is a competition between the descendant. The nearer descendant exclude the remoter descendant. After the death of P, there is a competition between 1 and these. 4s1 is nearer descendant, therefore 4s1 will prevail over the remoter. And the fundamental rule is, friends, where there is no difference. Suppose for example, if 1 and 2, if there is a competition between these two, then they will take the property simultaneously, 1 by half and 1 by half, because they are at the same degree of distance. Distance of this heir is more than the distance of that heir, therefore the property will now goes to 1, but in different case the property will take by simultaneous heirs, which I discussed simultaneous heirs with you, friends. Now the question is how we can calculate the degree. For the purpose of determination of order of succession among the agnates or cognates, the relationship shall be renounced from the intestate to the heir in the term of degree of ascent or descendant, or both as the case may be. Degree of ascent and degree of descent shall be computed inclusive of the intestate. Every generation constitutes a degree either ascending or descending. Note, the order of succession among the agnates and cognates is not determined merely by the total number of degree of ascent and descent. It is subject to and regulated by section 12 of the Act. In reference to the computation of the degree, I want to clarify that in India we accepted the rule of inclusive. Under the British law, when you start the counting, you must exclude the first one. This approach is accepted in Indian Succession Act 1925, but under the Hindu law approach is very simple. From whom you are going to count the degree must be inclusive, must be counted as one, and after counting you will identify who is nearer, who is remoter, because generally nearer relatives will gain the property after the death of the intestate. Friends, this is the idea how the degree may be counted. Suppose if I want to count the degree between two inclusive 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, then 6 and 7. We can calculate the distance in this way. Suppose this is a case of collateral Z, Z1, Z2, again 6, 7 and 8 from. The Z2 is remoter than B. Degree must be counted inclusively. The person whose degree is to be renounced is also included in the counting and its place as a first degree. Friends, degree of descent, degree of ascent and degree of collateral must be counted inclusive manner. On the basis of the discussion, we can think about the legislature moved certain heirs from class 2 to class 1 via 2005 Amendment Act, but they failed to omit the same in the list of second heirs. What would happen if there is no heir in the class 1 and class 2, no agnates nor any cognates? How would property devolve in such cases? Is the Hindu Succession Act 1956 a complete code in matter of dealing with intestate succession of male dying intestate? These are certain points. By these observations, we may conclude our today's lecture. Today, I classify entire presentation in two different categories: succession in a case of second class heir, succession in a case of agnates and cognates. Succession in the context of second class heir, the rule is very simple. In absence of first class, second class will exist. Second class entry first will prevail over the entry second, second will prevail over the third, and section 1 within the entry they will take simultaneous. If there is a competition between grandfather and grandmother, both are exist in a same entry, they will take simultaneously equal share. But if there is a competition between entry first and entry third, then father will exclude all the heirs of second class heirs. Friends, Hindu male dying intestate and dissolution of property in the context of class 1 heirs, every class 1 heirs will take property simultaneously, but it not happened in a case of second class heir. We may derive this rule from the basis of section 9 and 11, read with the drafting style of list schedule, where Romans 1, 2, 3, 4 is written. Therefore, we are bound to conclude that second class heirs will only receive the property in absence of first class, and they will inherit the property as per the rule of section 9 and 11. Now I want to conclude about the idea of cognates and agnates. Agnates means those persons are agnates when both are correlated with each other wholly through male. Two are cognates if they are related with each other not wholly through male. This is the criteria, and rule of section 12 and 13 is very important. 13 is about the how you can calculate the degree of distance between them, and section 12 is rule, and on that basis the property will be devolved among them. These are the rules. Thank you for your patience. Thank you friends. Thank you.